On TV's Batman, Julie Newmar was the ideal Catwoman, dangerous, tall, and attractive. Then her career abruptly came to an end. No more prestigious positions or notoriety. She persisted, however. She created unique pantyhose that improved women's appearances. She gained millions on her real estate investment. She created an empire while Hollywood forgot about her. She gave birth to a baby with Down syndrome when she was 48. Unexpectedly, the actress everyone forgot turned into a business whiz. Julie Newmar, the mother of Julie Newmar, was born in Los Angeles in 1933. Her life was also anything but typical from the start. Her family was full with talented people with strong personalities. Don Newmar, her father, was a professional football player before going on to become a coach and teacher, known as the lady with the most gorgeous legs in the industry. Her mother, Helene Yesmer, was a stunning Ziegfeld Follies star. Julie was raised in a society that valued both artistic beauty and physical prowess due to her mother's flair and her father's discipline. Out of the three children, she was the eldest. Peter, one of her brothers, lost his life in a terrible skiing mishap. John, the other, became a prosperous vintner and epidemiologist. However, Julie appeared to be bound for the limelight. She was exposed to dancing, music, and fashion from an early age. Early on, her mother saw Julie's promise and took her from lesson to lesson around Los Angeles. Anything that may help her hone her skills, like ballet, piano, etc. Julie wasn't only receiving instruction, they were shaping her. She picked everything up quickly. She won a position as a prima ballerina with the Los Angeles Opera at the age of 15, having already completed high school. Her father's preferred training techniques contributed to her body's strength and elegance, but she also had a bright intellect. She received an almost flawless score on the UCLA admission exam. She was unable to stay in the classroom for very long, though. She barely stayed at the institution for 6 weeks before leaving to pursue the stage. Along with her mother and brother, she embarked on a transformative journey around Europe that same year. She became more aware of the broader realm of art and culture as a result. Her career took off after her return. She was already working behind the scenes at Universal Studios, teaching dancing and choreographing before she turned 18. She advanced due to more than simply her skill. It was a combination of timing, confidence, and discipline. She started working as a staff choreographer at Universal at the age of 19, which is remarkable for someone so young. She also continued her studies at UCLA, just enough to keep the mind active while physically exploring Hollywood, philosophy, French, piano. She was almost 6 feet tall, helped her stand out in every space when paired with her ballet skills. Even though her name wasn't yet well known, MGM took note and hired her for dancing parts that put her at the center of the action. Her first significant visual moment occurred when she wore only a gold bikini, was entirely painted in gold for her appearance in the movie Serpent of the Nile. For its day, it was audacious. She used her moves as a weapon when playing a lethal dancer in Slaves of Babylon that same year. Something about her on-screen persona felt different, even in these minor parts. Dangerous, memorable, and feline. These parts were later seen by film historians as a foreshadowing of the Catwoman persona she would eventually make famous. Early Hollywood, however, wasn't always giving. Julie appeared in almost a dozen movies between 1952 and 1954, yet her name was never included in the credits. She and Fred Astaire danced in the bandwagon. She appeared in situations requiring elegance and beauty, such as Eddie Cantor's Narrative and Demetrius and the Gladiators. Although audiences saw her, they were unaware of her identity. Despite using her repeatedly, the studios failed to acknowledge her. It was a grind, without gratitude, yet essential. Then she broke. She at last got a genuine name and a legitimate role in 7 Brides for 7 Brothers. Dorcas, the self-assured bride wearing the purple gown. Although it wasn't the lead, it wasn't unmemorable either. Julie was unique in the barn-raising dancing scene, not just because of her movements but also because she gave Dorcas a sense of authenticity, strength, bravery, and readiness to face life. Despite the fact that her singing voice was dubbed by someone else, Julie took ownership of the role. That job accomplished something significant. Hollywood took another look. She wasn't simply another attractive background dancer, she wanted more. And as time went on, that preparedness evolved into legendary status. She debuted as a dancer in silk stockings in 1955 under the name Vera. Being Cole Porter's final Broadway production, it wasn't just ordinary musical and had several issues from the beginning. The original authors were swapped out. The director relinquished command. Tempers rose. Illnesses even caused the cast to change often. Nevertheless, the show managed to survive somehow. At $370,000, which was enormous at the time, it cost a lot. However, it ran for 478 performances. Julie stood out even though she didn't have a leading part, and that was only the beginning. She made a comeback to Broadway the following year, playing Stupefy Jones in Lil Abner. She didn't say much, although she was only on stage for a short while. The entire auditorium froze when she left. She was remembered. However, one quiet appearance stole the show, and critics couldn't stop raving about it. The musical ran for over 2 years after becoming a smash. Julie was also one of the few cast members retained for the 1959 movie adaptation. Her presence was more significant than her attractiveness. She was the one who people spoke about after the concert, even with all of the animals and crazy dancing moves. Then everything changed in 1958. Julie was cast in a major part in the Broadway hit comedy The Marriage Go Round. She portrayed the lovely Swedish woman Katrin Sevg, who politely asked a married professor to be the father of her kid. It was a startling thought. After being in disbelief, the audiences burst out laughing. The comedy and wit of the play set it apart from other Broadway productions. Julie more than held her own when she appeared with movie legends Claudette Colbert and Charles Boyer. She won a Tony Award for Best Featured Actress in a play for her performance. She later played the same part in the film adaptation of the musical, which ran for over 700 performances and was a huge hit. Julie was a Broadway star by this time, not simply a standout. She maintained the momentum in the early 1960s. In Damn Yankees, she played the sultry character Lola, who sings the well-known phrase, "Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets." Julie was a perfect fit, since she was almost 6 feet tall, had the elegance of a dancer, and had the physique of a model. She was adored by photographers. She even made an appearance in a Life magazine spread that was set in the midst of a baseball field. She played the lead in Irma la Douce a few years later, which allowed her to showcase her blend of charm and humor in a daring and flirty character. She often demonstrated that she was more than just a pretty face while touring the nation in performances of Dames at Sea and Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. On stage, she was bright, humorous, and in charge. Then the crash happened. Julie was chosen to star in Boom Boom Room, a brand new Broadway production, in 1973. It was intended to be a significant resurgence, a return to Lincoln Center's serious theater. However, everything quickly fell apart. She was sacked by the director during rehearsals. Her understudy took over immediately after. The director who dismissed her was then replaced before the play ever began, which was a twist that seemed like anarchy or karma. In reality, nobody prevailed. It also signaled the end of Julie's Broadway career. She was not given a lavish send-off. On that stage, she didn't get another chance. What had previously been a golden streak came to a brutal halt. There is more to Julie Newmar's television career than simply her career as a stunning actor. It's a story of deft decisions, nuanced power, and positions that defy easy categorization. She played Miss Devlin on The Twilight Zone in 1963, but she wasn't just the devil in disguise. The disguise was her. She was serene, icy, and eerie. She didn't require rage or flames to be frightening. She made evil seem easy. Julie remained still as the majority of performers went all out to portray Satan. She was memorable because of her silent malice. It was more than a performance. There was motion, presence, timing, and that was rooted in her heritage. She was a prima ballerina with the Los Angeles Opera at the age of 15. She began choreographing for Universal Studios at the age of 19. Without uttering a word, she was able to manage a stage, a camera, and an audience. She made a comeback to the public eye in 1964, a year later, albeit in a completely different capacity. She wasn't the devil this time. She was a machine. She portrayed Rhoda in My Living Doll, a highly advanced automaton created to be the ideal lady. On the surface, the program was humorous and light-hearted. But during the very beginning of the women's liberation movement, it explored themes of gender, identity, and domination. Rhoda was more than simply attractive. She was gaining knowledge. She wanted to know. She was designed to comply. But Julie gave her the impression that she was making a choice. It was a difficult ride for the performance. It was discontinued after only 26 episodes, because it aired at the wrong time, and was overshadowed by other popular shows like Bonanza. Even worse, practically all of the series' copies were destroyed in a huge earthquake in 1994. It was lost for years. 11 episodes made it through. However, Rhoda never truly vanished. The performance endured through admirers, recollections, and in 2012, DVD releases. The fact that Julie's robot had a soul stuck with people. She left another impression in 1967, this time in Star Trek. In the Friday's Child episode, she portrayed Eileen. She didn't mince words, even if it was only one episode. Angry, stubborn, and pregnant, Eileen refused to back down and gave Dr. McCoy a smack. It was clumsy, strong, and very unlike the composed personalities for which she was renowned. That was the main idea. She continued to defy herself. Years later, fans would share with her the significance of that performance at conventions. They recalled every word and every glance. Julie claimed that supporters showed their affection in 100 various ways throughout the day. Even the smallest details were significant to her. She was omnipresent during the 1960s and 1970s. The Phil Silvers Entertainment, often known as Rhoda's 66, is the best entertainment on the planet. The list is endless. Whether the part was glamorous or gritty, large or tiny, it didn't matter to her. All she wanted to do was add intrigue. She usually did too. However, Julie Newmar was more than simply a movie character. She understood the humor. "Tell me I'm hilarious," she once remarked, and it's the best compliment ever. She went after that. Not only beauty, but also wit, timing, and cunning. She was aware of how she was perceived. Tall, gorgeous, and quite surreal. Despite using it, she never allowed it to define who she was. She portrayed a walking fantasy, stupefying Jones on stage in Lil Abner, yet she winked while doing it, having a sense of humor. When the phone rang one evening in early 1966, Julie Newmar had never heard of Catwoman at all. When a Hollywood representative asked her whether she could begin filming for the Batman series on Monday, she was in New York, entertaining her brother and his pals from Harvard. She was first shocked. Who would agree to play a character they have no knowledge of, much less a role in a show they have never seen? However, everything was different when her brother said that Batman was their favorite Harvard television program and sprang off the couch in delight. He claimed that in order to watch the episodes, they practically ran out of class time. She was persuaded by that response. She was already dressed up by Wednesday, taking on a part that would permanently alter her life. Julie took her work seriously. Her goal was to become Catwoman, not only don the outfit. In order to learn how cats moved, she adopted 2 of them. She observed their style of stretching, stalking, and even milk consumption. She included such aspect in her performance. She consumes milk from a saucer in one scene, but she makes sucking noises rather than licking it like a cat, because, as she subsequently clarified, it was forbidden to expose your tongue on camera in the 1960s. They even outlawed belly buttons. She yet managed to give the character depth in spite of the guidelines. She has a sleek, predatory body due to her training as a dancer. Her performance of each scenario was influenced by her intelligence. She convinced the audience that Catwoman was more intelligent than Batman. She only had 13 episodes spread over 2 seasons. However, it was all she needed to become a legend. Her performance was the ideal fusion of comedy and danger, of seduction and mischief. She was always one step ahead in fun without ever being foolish. Fans continued to pick Catwoman as their favorite despite the fact that the program had many great antagonists. In fact, she frequently outperformed the Penguin, the Riddler, and the Joker in surveys. She had such a powerful presence. She was unique in every moment, not just because of the outfit, but also because she gave the part her all. Another element was offered by her interaction with Adam West's Batman. It wasn't a contrived tension between them. It was authentic. Julie and the producers engaged in a tug-of-war behind the scenes. She envisioned Catwoman as a villain who had no mercy and was entirely malevolent. However, romance was what the makers hoped for. She played along grudgingly, and the situations were made more passionate by her hesitation. Every time they shared the screen, you could sense the tug-of-war. The viewers grew to appreciate her more as she produced more episodes. Additionally, Julie's Catwoman was on par with Batman, and occasionally even better than him, whereas the majority of female characters at that era were relegated to supporting roles. Then, abruptly, she vanished. Neither the third season of the program nor the Batman movie included her. Scheduling was the official explanation. McKenna's Gold was the title of the movie she was working on. However, the chronology is not entirely consistent. Filming for that picture began in June 1967, and Eartha Kitt didn't start playing the part until October. Some claim that after recording so many episodes, Julie was worn out. Others believe that Batgirl's arrival to the ensemble may have contributed to Catwoman's diminished prominence. The position was transferred for whatever reason. She was portrayed by Lee Meriwether in the film. For the third season, Eartha Kitt took over. Although each had a unique twist, parallels were unavoidable. Her initial performance felt much more memorable without Newmar. It was never Julie Newmar's style to sit back and take things as they were. She made the decision to mend it herself after becoming dissatisfied with standard pantyhose that not only flattened a woman's tummy, but also deformed her rear end. She tested and experimented for 2 long years before coming up with anything fresh. She received a U.S. patent for her innovation in 1975, pants that molded the body without giving it an unnatural appearance. Her unique invention used a clever elastic band that fit between the buttocks to elevate and sculpt a woman's form rather than flattening everything. The fabric stretched perfectly since it was a delicate blend of spandex and nylon. She went on to enhance her initial concept and was granted another patent in 1977. Julie made a joke about your ass looking like an apple rather than a ham sandwich because of her pantyhose. Any lady could get the firm fanny of a 12-year-old from it, she claimed. However, creating it was insufficient. Julie had a way of making people speak. She wore her new pantyhose herself when she made an appearance in People magazine in 1977. Despite her advanced age of 44, she was indifferent to the opinions of others. I have 2 drawers full of pantyhose, but none of them do anything good for my backside, she declared confidently. The pictures created a stir. Even years later, men claimed they were still unable to shake the vision. Julie's astute timing was also helpful. At the time, women's rights were a hot subject, and she was providing more than just a product here, but a celebration of the beauty of nature. The new Newmar pantyhose she wore were popular. Throughout the late 1970s and early 1980s, sales continued to rise. Julie did more than simply create a superior product. She started a movement. She demonstrated to women that it was okay to feel good about their bodies. She also demonstrated that she could sell as aggressively as any large company. In the 1980s, when acting roles began to decline, Julie remained calm. She just changed direction. She shifted her focus to real estate and began purchasing homes in underappreciated areas of Los Angeles. Her eye was excellent. She chose locations along Fairfax Avenue and La Brea Avenue that were not quite upscale but were on the verge of becoming such. Those neighborhoods quickly rose to the top of the town's hotspots list. Julie also didn't rely solely on guesswork. She returned to school, enrolled in UCLA's real estate courses, and gained the knowledge she required. She didn't depend on high-level consultants or supervisors. As with her development of pantyhose, she managed everything alone. Over time, she was credited with transforming the very areas in which she made investments. She had amassed a fortune by the 1990s because to her astute purchasing and cautious management. Quietly, she protected her future while other celebrities made poor decisions or lost money. The events in Julie's personal life added even greater impact to her narrative. Hollywood was unsure of how to handle females who were older than 40. Their roles dried up, regardless of their skill. Julie, however, had no intention of fading away or becoming reliant on anybody. John Jules Smith, her son, was born in 1981, had a hearing impairment and Down syndrome at birth. Julie remained at his side, rather than giving him over to a babysitter, as many celebrities did. She made sure she could adequately care for him by using the money she made from her inventions and real estate. Even well-known TV personalities like Julie weren't always wealthy from acting alone, according to a Hollywood historian. Things may have turned out much differently if it weren't for her keen business sense. Julie, however, did more than survive. She flourished. She made wise decisions, refused to be constrained by the norms of others, and gradually paved her own way. Julie Newmar didn't take the typical route to motherhood. She had been connected to several well-known people, including author Louis L'Amour, before to being married. Comedian Mort Sahl, and actor Ken Scott. Although romance had always been a part of her life, she didn't marry a lawyer called Jay until she was 44. Holt Smith, and followed him to Texas in search of a more tranquil life and family aspirations. However, those dreams were painful. Each of Julie's 3 miscarriages was more tragic than the one before. These were not only pregnancy-related losses. She began to doubt everything because of these mental scars. However, she persisted. Then at 48, an amazing event occurred. John Jules Smith, her only child, was born. After much grief, she referred to him as her last-minute baby, a miracle. However, her marriage failed after just 3 years, leaving her to raise her kid by herself. Julie had never anticipated the difficulties that came with John's birth, but it had also brought happiness. He was given the diagnosis of Down syndrome by doctors, which would have a profound impact on their life. As if that weren't enough, John lost his hearing at the age of 3 due to meningitis. He eventually lost the capacity to talk as well. Julie now had a child with exceptional cognitive difficulties who was dumb and deaf. Many would have fallen apart. Julie didn't. She wouldn't consider John damaged. Words like afflicted were rejected by her. Rather, she accepted the beauty of his worldview. He reacted to light, color, movement, and all things visual. She adapted her life to meet his requirements, and taught him things that the rest of the world didn't yet know. It's challenging to be a single mother. Raising a child with complicated needs as a 50-year-old single mother, while continuing performing and taking care of your health, is a whole other level. There were fewer programs and support groups in the 1980s than there are now. Julie had to work everything out on her own. She managed therapy sessions, doctor's appointments, and special education. As the years went by, she received assistance from 2 devoted helpers who brought John to painting courses so he could express himself in ways that words could never. They also helped with cleaning. John, who is in his 40s, continues to live with his mother. They have an unshakable bond. Throughout all of this, Julie remained constant. She starred in George Michael's Too Funky music video in 1992, competing with the best supermodels of the time. She did more than simply show up in the video. She stole it, and nobody was compensated. The purpose was to raise awareness about AIDS. She reminded everyone that even at around 60, she still had an unmistakable presence. After 3 years, an unforeseen event occurred. A movie with an odd title was released. Thank You for Everything, Wong Fu, Newmar Julie. Drag queens were the subject of the humor. However, the title included her name. She became an instant homosexual icon as a result of the film. In the movie, a picture of her represented classic elegance and grace. She even played herself in a cameo. Few celebrities ever get to experience the kind of acceptance she received from the LGBTQ+ community. Then there was an unexpected return. Julie made a comeback as Catwoman decades after the Batman television series in the 1960s. In animated form, this time, even at 83, she still had the same mischievous purr in her voice. Younger viewers have the opportunity to learn what more seasoned fans already knew thanks to the new movies. The finest and the original was Julie Newmar. As a throwback to the past, her character even knocked out another Catwoman in one episode. It was shrewd. It was enjoyable. It also demonstrated that her brilliance had not diminished with time. But it wasn't all glitz and nostalgia. In her Brentwood neighborhood, Julie gained notoriety for something very different: a conflict with Jim Belushi, the actor who lives next door. Lawsuits, allegations and tabloid headlines resulted from what began as concerns over noise and fencing. Belushi accused her of calling him a voyeur, damaging property, and playing loud music. During a furious argument, she once tossed an egg at his house. He once placed a hot tub next to the window of her bedroom. She said she had to sleep in her son's room and get industrial headphones because of the noise. A red curb even sparked a paint battle. Belushi once yelled from his scooter, "This is war." It was ridiculous. It was Hollywood. However, they ultimately came to an agreement. He even had Julie on his sitcom, proving to the world that they had put their differences aside. Julie continued to be a local legend in spite of all the drama. She had bred her own roses and other exotic plants for her home. Even though her tactics were out of the ordinary, she battled for peace in her community. She once spray-painted the word for noise outside her neighbor's house because she was annoyed by his leaf blower. She once said that if nothing was done, she would move to New Zealand. Although she was referred to as eccentric, she had a strong concern for her son, her garden, and the morals of her neighborhood. She grew older gracefully, but not without suffering. She acknowledged in a subsequent interview that she had gone through some experiences she would have preferred to avoid. The weight of her story was contained in that single sentence: the miscarriages, the marriages, the difficulties with her son, and the rivalry between neighbors. Behind the serene grin, everything existed. But she remained loyal to herself throughout it all. Julie Newmar never ceased being remarkable, whether she was walking with her kid, in a garden, or on a movie set.